really about how do you save that 4 hours per week per employee? Or even if it's 2 hours a week per employee, where do you get that from? And how do you use the Microsoft 365 suite to achieve those savings?
Microsoft measures how people collaborate on the content, how they use the 365 products to communicate, and then they also look at how they use it cross-platform. So how many devices are you using? How often are you sending or reading emails, like we saw over there? And then how much of that documentation that's prepared is actually being worked on in a collaborative way. So 2 or 3 people working through that, right? When we talk about how you're going to increase and save time and increase productivity, you're actually coming up against the benchmark. So if the benchmark in your organization, whether it's the number of licenses that you have and users, that benchmark is a representation of where you're utilizing the products effectively, but you're not quite where you want to be at your most productive. The primary insight that we're looking at here is, well, how frequently do people in your organization use email, chat, and post things in a community forum when they communicate? And because when they use a lot of real-time communication tools, they're able to choose whichever mode of communication is best suited to that person. So if we were to look at the base of this slide here that we have up, you can see that 16% of the people use an @ mention in their email. And here's a cute creative tip that I like. If you know the people that you want to add a task to in an email, you put the @ mention sign in the email and you add that person's address in the email. Their name pops up in the email, but it also adds their email address to the list of persons on that email. So you don't even need to type their email address in when you're adding them or adding a task to a person within an email, which again saves you a couple of clicks. But as you accumulate that over time, it really turns out to save you. So if we were to think about it as a person in your organization who creates, reads, and or edits, shares, or renames a document within your environment, then it becomes pretty clear what content collaboration would be. So as an example, if we were to look, and the little gray arrows in the middle there are benchmarks. So if we were to take a look at that and say, well, within our organization, 56 of our people or percentage of our people are using collaboration with online office files. So our environment's primarily SharePoint. So people are going to be utilizing their files there, which means that they're reading a number of documents, creating documents as well at the same rate, and collaborating or working together with people on that. So now we've taken, it can be 2 people, 3 people, or 10 people, but 56% of people fall within that category right now of how we're doing all 3 of those things effectively. Time saving throughout. If we move along now, how does all of this, so yeah, I can see my teams being productive. I can see over here that everybody's collaborating, but what are they collaborating on and where are they working from, right? Everybody went from working in a similar space to working in a familiar space, not necessarily anywhere close to each other. And that mobility now is important because we need to track, well, how many devices does a person have? You've got your work laptop, maybe a work desktop, maybe a tablet, maybe a smartphone for work and home. And then of course, maybe as well, you've got a smartwatch, because for those Fitbits out there. And then based on that, if we've got about 49% of our people using these Microsoft products on 1 or more platform, then the primary insight that we're looking at here is, well, the number of people who access files, use email across their desktop, laptop, tablet, smartwatch, or phone. And then which ones are they utilizing in that platform the best, right? Because now if you're looking for a seamless experience across your devices, then you can see it's more or less very evenly split. Multiple platforms versus desktop only, multiple platforms with Teams versus email versus 365 files.